Hello and welcome, or welcome back to my channel. This is my May wrap-up and my June TBR. I read 10 books in the month of June, or in the month of May rather. These are the books that I read in the month of May. So let's go ahead and get into them. They're not in the order that I read them in. They're just the ones that I read in May. Underneath the Sycamore Tree by B. Celeste. This one was a really good book. I gave it a 4-star, I do believe. The ending was so sad, so very sad. It talks about Emery and her twin sister Lo, and she ends up moving in with her dad and finds out she has a stepbrother named Caden. And he treats her better than everybody else treats her. And they go through a lot. She ends up living with her dad for a year. And I'm not going to say much more than that, because if I do, then it'll give away the book. I would make sure you check and see if there's any trigger warnings with this, because it's a very, very deep book, and it does not have a lot of death, but it has all of her struggles going through the diagnosis she gets of lupus. So, again, this was a 4-star book for me. I would highly recommend it. I would make sure you're in the right headspace to read it. The next ones I read was the Divergent series. So I read Divergent, Insurgent, Allegiant, and 4. Divergent was really slow, but it gave a lot of background to what happened in the rest of the books. It picked up like the last 10 to 20 chapters in the Divergent series. Insurgent, it followed the character a lot more. It followed 4 and Tris. You find out throughout the book that Tris is Beatrice, and 4, his name is actually Tobias. And they just go through a lot of trial and tribulation with things that are coming about and war that is impending in this book. This book here, The Allegiant, kind of finishes up with the war starting, people rising up and becoming allied with each other to overtake the government, and how the books kind of go through how Tobias and Beatrice fall in love throughout all of the books. And then this one I read last. And after I read it, my personal opinion is this should have been read first, because it gives a lot of background to some of the stuff that 4 goes through in Divergent. Because when it describes very vaguely 4's background, it's very, very vague. But if I would have read this first, this would have made a lot of the stuff in Divergent easier to understand. But all 4 of them were really good books. Divergent, I gave a 3-star to. Insurgent, I gave a 4-star. Allegiant and 4, I gave 5 stars. For the series overall, I gave it a 5-star. This is something I would recommend for anybody to read. It's a good book. It is not science fiction at all. But I would make sure you check the trigger warnings, because there's a lot of things having to do with war and violence, mind control. So that is something I would definitely check for trigger warnings. And our book club pick for this month for Sarah Carioli's book club was Happy Place by Emily Henry. This one, I gave a 3-star to, only because it took them until like the last 5 chapters to figure out that they were what they were supposed to be doing with their lives. It was a really good story. They did amazing things over the summer. And it just showed how good friendships can be. They were excellent friends, and when they first started going to this vacation home with one of their school friends, they all said they don't want to make it weird, they don't want to date people in their friend group, and it's just a friend's getaway and whatever else. Well, it came to be eventually, the last few years, that it was a couples retreat because everybody was dating somebody in that friend group. And it talked about some of the struggles they had in schools while they were in college, and some of the things that they dealt with. My favorite couple out of the whole book was Harriet and Wynne. Those are the main characters in the book, and they were so blind to how much each one wanted the other. They just assumed neither one wanted the other one, and they both had moved on. In reading the book, you'll find out whether that's true or whether that's not, and if they figure out how they truly feel about each other. Like I said, I gave that one 3 stars. If it gave a little more of a background, focused more on some of the activities they did, and then how the love evolved between the characters, I think I would have enjoyed it more. But this is the first book I read by Emily Henry. I do have others. I'm willing to give the other ones a try and see if they're any different. The next one that I read is A Slow Fire Burning by Paula Hawkins. This one here, this was, yeah, you need to check the trigger warnings on this, because there are murders that happen, there's abuse that happens, and the person that murders these people is not who you think it is. It reads fairly decent. Some of it was confusing at times, but not overall. This one I believe I gave a 4-star to. But I don't think I would read anything by this author again. It just moved too slow for my liking. Like, I like a slow burn and that type of thing. That's not what this was. If there was any romance in it, it would have been a slow burn. But it is not an author that I think I will read more of. Maybe with time, maybe I will try something by this author again, but this just was not the book. And then for Jamie's book club, we started the Briar U series called The Chase by L. Kennedy. We're continuing the series here in the month of June. And this is the first hockey romance I've ever read. It was a really good book. I think some of the guys were very clueless in this book, with how they felt or how they didn't feel. But one of the guys that she ends up with is who I thought she should have ended up with. They just had excellent chemistry. He's the only one that seemed to truly care when she was upset. And it didn't talk a lot about hockey. There was a couple of scenes in there with hockey. A lot of it was more of her trying to overcome what happened at her previous school and moving in with some of her brother's friends, and the journey she is taking through all of this, and how she ends up falling in love with one of her brother's friends, which her brother is not very happy about either way. But it's a really good book. I gave that a 5-star. I'm excited to start the second one in the series. One of our other book club picks is A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon. This one, it was a 5-star. This was so funny. It follows Mariel and Ozroth. Ozroth is the demon that she accidentally summoned. And it's just funny. She tries being as mean as possible to him to get him to leave. And he tries to protect her. He doesn't understand why all of a sudden he has these feelings of he wants to protect her, and he feels sad when she feels sad. He's like, demons aren't supposed to feel this way. And it was just really, it was a really good book. I laughed so many times reading this book, and I told my husband, I said, oh my God, you gotta listen to this. And I would read him parts out of the book, and some of the stuff, I don't know where they come up with some of these phrases. Oh my God. It was really fun to read, and it was really fun to see some of the reactions of people in her family. And yeah, you just got to read it. You're going to have a good time reading it, and it's super funny. And the final book that I read is the second book in the Six of Crows series, is Crooked Kingdom. And I was very sad with the way this book ended. I was hoping the two main characters ended up differently than they did. This one I actually did tab, as you can see here. There was a lot of things in here that got me, and I couldn't understand why they were denying the feelings they were having. And there was something very, very sad that happens in this book. Yeah, this book made me cry. There was a tragedy at the end. I'm not going to say what it is, only because if I do, then I'm going to give away the whole series for the book and what happens between book 1 and book 2. This is a 5-star for the duology. It is a 5-star overall. So I've read Six of Crows, and now I've finished up the duology. And it's just a very good book, and it reads fast. And as you can see, I took, most of the stuff that I highlighted was, longer passages and that types of things. So I'm excited for that. So those are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 books that I read in May. And now on to my books for June. This here is one of the first books for my June TBR. I actually just finished it up this morning on the 4th of June, because I'm not sure when I'm going to post this video. But this one was a very good book. This poor girl was, and the title is perfect. She ends up losing her job, getting dumped, losing her place to live, so she moves back with her parents. And she ends up finding out that her arch rival from high school lives next door to her parents in this god-awful mansion with a swan that honks at everybody that walks by. It's absolutely obnoxious. And she gets thrown into a job that she doesn't necessarily want. Her mom, and it's a small town, so it's also a small town romance, and her mom is talking to the people from town and finds out that they need a soccer coach and a gym teacher or a phy ed teacher at the junior/senior high in town. And her mom tells her about it, and then her mom proceeds to tell her that she said, "Oh, I told them, by the way, that you would take the job." To which she found the guy that she had a crush on in high school worked at the school as a history teacher. And it kind of goes through their whole journey. Most of it is focused on Marley, and the journey she goes through. But when she gets together with Jake, and all the stuff that he's trying to help her with to make her a better teacher, a better coach, it starts to go through their journey together to end up where they end up at the end of the book. And it's a really, really good book. I gave it a 5-star. This is my second book by Lucy Score. I absolutely love Lucy Score's writing. So that's the first one on the TBR. The next one is the 5 Crowns of Oakrith series. The first one is the High Mountain Court, which I've started. And then the Witch's Blade and the Rogue Crown by A.K. Mulford. I ended up pulling this series, so all 3 are on my TBR. As you can see, they're marked. I think there's more books than these 3. But I only have the 3. I think I saw a 4th one at Barnes & Noble. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe I saw a 4th one at Barnes & Noble. And then the next one I picked is A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. However, this is the second book in the series, so this also got added to my TBR, The Priority of the Orange Tree, so I can read them in order. As you can see, both these books are fairly thick, so both of them are on my TBR because I can't read this one unless I read this one. The Messenger by Mariah Hanna. She is also the author of The Silent Room. This is supposed to be a thriller. And it says, when a mysterious DVD is delivered in Northumbria Police Headquarters, Detective Sergeant Matthew Ryan and Detective Superintendent Eloise O'Neill are among the few to view its disturbing content. With little to go on, the only leads come from the anonymous and chilling woman's voice narrating the blood-soaked, locked up, depicted on screen. So I've never read anything by this author, but this is also on my June TBR. The next one is The Nanny by Gillian McMillan. And this is a mass market paperback size, but as you can see, it's super floppy, so it'll be easy to read. And on the front it says, dark, twisty, and full of character you'll love to hate. And that's a quote by Ruth Ware. What is going on with my hair here? Oh my God. Anyway, so the first paragraph on the back is on a hot night in the summer of 1987, Hannah, the Holt family's nanny, left Lake Hall without a trace, devastating 7-year-old Joe. Haunted by the loss of the woman she loved more than anyone, Joe grew up blaming her beautiful, aristocratic mother, Virginia. Yeah, and it's just written from multiple points of view, because if I go to the next one, let's see. Then it goes to Joe. So it tells it from multiple points of view, and then some of them have years on them. I think it'll be a fairly fast read because I like thriller books, and I don't think it's that thick, not really. It has, let's see if I can find it. Nope. Oh, for goodness sakes. So it has 415 pages in it, so it should be a fairly fast read. The next one that I got was Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This one is kind of beat up, but I'm excited to read it. I've heard a lot of people rave about this book, and I'm excited to get into it. Taylor Jenkins Reid for me is kind of a hit or miss. I absolutely did not like Daisy Jones and the Six, but I did like The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. So it's kind of hit or miss for me. And I think the reason I didn't like Daisy Jones and the Six is it was just surrounded about tours and all the stuff they did touring as a band. And that just, I don't think that was my vibe. But I liked this stuff in The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. That was better. It was still a 3-star, but it was better. And then I ended up picking this one. But I can't read this one until I read Legendborn. So both, again, are on my TBR. And then I have my 3 book club picks The one for Sarah Carioli is Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. I've heard that I should be reading The Cheat Sheet and When in Rome first. I have one, but not the other. I have ordered When in Rome because I had an Amazon gift card. But I know they're in the same universe and are interconnected, but it's not a series. So we'll see how that goes. The next one is from Jamie, and it's the second book in the Briar U series called The Risk by L. Kennedy. And then after this, we'll finish the series in August because we only have 2 more books in the series after that. And this is a hockey romance series, and I really, really liked the first one. So I'm excited to see how the story continues. I did not read the Off-Campus series. I did ask some of the girls in the book club if it was necessary to read the Off-Campus series to start the Briar U series, and they said absolutely not. So I started the Briar U series. And then I have a book club pick from one of my Discord book clubs, and it's called Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. And this is the Target edition where it's got the sprayed edges of dragons on it. I've never read anything with dragons on it, or in it rather, not on the, anyway. But I'm willing to give it a try because I would only read horror, suspense, or thrillers before. And now I like romance, slow burn, rom-com, enemies to lovers, hockey romances, anything having to do with fairies. Like I read the ACOTAR series, I absolutely loved it. So I have the other books that Sarah J. Maas has written, the Throne of Glass series, I have the whole set. And then the Crescent City, I have the first 2. I believe I pre-ordered the 3rd one that is supposed to be coming out. I believe it's in July. So that one will be coming. And other than that, I have, I think, 4 other pre-orders. 5 total that have yet to come. Because I have 4 pre-orders that I've ordered and 1 pre-order I ordered for my mother-in-law because she put it on a list for Mother's Day. So she should be getting that, I believe, here at the end of June. But yeah, I like the sprayed edges. And the chapters are weird. They're kind of like in the middle of the page. But the end pages have maps in them. And I really don't know anything about this book at all. But I'm excited to read it as a book club pick. And that is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 books for 14, including the Lucy Score book, for the month of June for my TBR. Let me know if you've read any of these books. If you like them, if you didn't like them, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share. I love to hear from you guys, and thank you so much for stopping by my channel. I'll see you in the next video.